The Plank, presented by Ram, starts now.
How's it going? Everybody good? Welcome to Week 10 of the National Football League of the Plank, presented by Ram. TK, along with John Sabol, back from the wilderness, the Himalayas. Where were you, dude?
I was hunting the elusive Yeti, as you were calling it.
Did you find it?
No.
What'd you find?
Well, actually, I did find him. Remember, he says you owe him money still.
I owe who won it? What are you crazy? I don't
That's
know
what that's what he said.
I don't know anybody.
Yeah. No, I was away up in northern Michigan duck hunting with my brother-in-law.
You were? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll get into that more later.
Oh, boy.
How many ducks?
12.
12.
Yeah.
A day?
Together. 3 days.
Okay. I got a question for you later on in the show
Oh, boy.
that's going to relate to that wonderful experience that you had.
I'm a little nervous because I don't know where you're going to go with that.
Well, frankly, I don't know where I'm going either.
Well,
so that makes two of us.
That's expected.
It is, absolutely. But again, the Bucks, so close but yet so far against your team.
Well, it's funny because when I called in last week, I said I'm going to use the reverse psychology because every time I picked the Bucks to win, they would lose. So I picked the Browns to win, and the Bucks lost. So it didn't work. So the Browns won. So many things went wrong in the game for both teams. I mean, if you look at the stats, both teams played horrible.
Oh, the game was a menagerie.
If you want to learn the
Mike
game,
Evans was the only. He was the only
only
bright spot that I could find.
Right, and if you think about it, if you're trying to learn the game of football, that was not a game to want to watch if you're a kid, because that's not what you want to do, except if you're Mike Evans.
Yeah.
If you want to emulate that. That was a bad game all around. We're going to talk about it. I know you're going to allude to it later, but a questionable play call.
Well, there were three of them.
Well,
Second and 1, third and 1, and fourth and 1 in my book.
For Marcus Arroyo.
Yeah.
The Browns couldn't stop the run. Why not just keep running the ball? You know, their defense is banged up like the Bucs' defense has been, but they're worse. They cannot stop the run, and they just.
Well, I mean, Bobby Rainey picked up enough yards in the first half. They didn't want to get him any more. I mean, he had 83 in the first, right?
Why did they?
I don't. Frankly, I don't know what's going on over there, but I think we do have a guy that does know.
Greg Auman.
Greg Auman from the Tampa Bay Times, Buccaneer beat writer, joining us here on the Plank Report, presented by Ram. All right, hey Greg, how you doing, brother?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. So Lovie got a little chippy this week. I like to see that.
Well, Lovie does have a little bit more to him this week. He's, he's 1-7. And when you're 1-7, it's okay to have a little bit of feistiness to you.
Well, you got to think, Greg. You saw that game in Cleveland. You were there. It couldn't have been happy on a lot of different things that happened. We were at the locker room and talking to Lovie Smith the last few days, but some of the questionable play calls, Lovie Smith couldn't have been probably thrilled about them. I mean, why didn't the Bucs stop running the football on some of those 3rd and 1s?
Yeah, I mean, they did try. I mean, they had a 3rd and 1 and they lost 2 on it, but they had Mike James in there. And then when you get the second one on the last drive, yeah, especially with a minute 55 still on the clock, there's no reason not to run the ball there, to give you a fresh set of downs, to keep the defense guessing. I think they panicked and played at a level you might play when there's 30 seconds left. You throw it to Vincent Jackson. I'm sure Marcus Arroyo said he felt confident going to his number 1 receiver. Obviously, Vincent didn't make the catch, and then things kind of deteriorated from there. But yeah, lots of questionable things. When you run the ball as well as it did in the first half, it's hard to imagine only 8 carries in the second half.
Hey, Greg, one of the things I really like to see was Gerald McCoy coming out yesterday on his radio show and basically saying what Lovie had to say to the players collectively, and that was, hey, if you don't like what I'm doing around here, we can make changes. I think that's just a short way of putting it. Either it's my way or the highway. It pretty much pointed fingers at players that we think are not playing 100% or are playing for anything but the paycheck. Your thoughts on that and it coming out at this point in time?
Yeah, I'll be a little bit more impressed when you start seeing guys actually benched. I mean, to talk about guys getting cut when there's really not that much benching even being done. I mean, you look at somebody like Michael Johnson, who had 0 tackles on Sunday, who has 4 tackles in the last 4 games. He's still starting every week. So, I mean, I think there's accountability there. I don't know if it always translates to actually putting somebody on the bench, let alone cutting somebody. But when you see a guy like Mark Barron get traded, I think that probably sent a message to a lot of people that if, what someone was drafted as, what someone came in as, doesn't matter so much as how they actually produce on the field.
Well, you also got to like how after the game, Gerald McCoy just basically flat out, I don't want to say threw his own teammates under the bus, but basically saying losing is just unacceptable, saying they've almost accepted this and just kind of, hey, they made some plays or whatever, not even taking a lack of accountability, if you will. We expect that on McCoy.
He wants them to be tired of losing by now. I mean, if anything, you would have thought they would have been tired of it maybe 4 or 5 losses ago.
You would think.
But at 1-7, they've made themselves irrelevant. This second half of the season, they can talk about still being in the division, but they're going to do well to be a 4-win team or a 5-win team here in the second half of the season. And they've done that because they haven't made changes and they haven't fixed their problems with the level of urgency you need to in this league.
Hey, Greg, you mentioned about you would be surprised, or you're talking about Michael Johnson, some guy that you would expect or make some changes if he were to get benched. I mean, that was a guy that was a free agent signing. You have other big-name free agents that were brought in here, or big names, and they have not been able to produce. Some of them come to mind, TK, and
well, Anthony Collins. That dude, I just benched him for the year. I don't the hell with him.
And not to say Altron Werner is not playing well, but he has not been really bringing to what we all expected. What would your overall opinion, Greg, be about this free agent class? Would you consider it an overall just bust of Jason Light's first attempt to trying to change the culture and change the roster?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. It's hard to find guys that have worked out. I mean, you think about the money that was spent, the high dollars that were handed out. I mean, and guys that honestly had question marks coming in. Michael Johnson's a guy that had 3.5 sacks last year, that got that franchise tag and then didn't have the same level of production. He's actually falling short of that now when you think about the production he's had here in the last month. Anthony Collins is a guy that was, had basically a half a season as a starter, and they bought hard in on that based on what he had done filling in as a left tackle. And he hasn't stepped up. He hasn't been the guy that he was in Cincinnati. It goes to Evan Dietrich Smith not being quite the leader they really needed on the offensive line. Logan Mankins coming in and not stepping in at the same high-level play that sent him to Hawaii for 6 times. Most everybody they've given money to in this offseason has fallen short of the expectations they came in with.
And that $55.5 million to all those free agents not producing.
No, the other thing, too, now Josh McCown's going to get the start. Glennon has been benched. It's sort of a back-asswards way of having it come out with Glennon actually having to admit the fact that it was coming. It was happening because his brother ended up tweeting something that obviously Lovie, I'm sure, wasn't very happy with.
Which was then later deleted in his account.
But that's a brother. He sticks up, family, blood's thicker than water. But my question to you, Greg, is this. Why would he go back to McCown? This team's 1-7, all right? They're not going anywhere. And if you want to find out if this guy is going to be your quarterback of the future, you don't bench him. And there's no way that Lovie can convince me that he still is the quarterback of the future. He is not the quarterback of the future.
Right. I mean, I think Lovie is standing by that because there isn't another quarterback here yet. I think, Mike Glennon has lost the last 4 games. If you look at some of the decisions made, some of the mistakes made in the red zone, I think Lovie Smith had enough of it. I mean, it's not like Mike Glennon's had a lot of success. They wanted Pittsburgh, and Mike Glennon was a big part of that. This is still a team that's last in the league in scoring, last in the league in yards. They literally have not converted a third down in the last 4 games in the second half of play. So I don't think Mike Glennon was playing at the level they wanted to. At this point, they're trying to find out whether McCown is a guy they want to bring back next year at $5 million. I think that's what they're trying to find out now.
Well, let's talk about this game coming up here, Greg. We all know what happened last time when the Falcons and Bucs played each other in the Georgia Dome back in September. Disastrous game, one of the worst losses in Buccaneers history. Where do you see this coming out with, well, before we get your prediction, with the play of Josh McCown? He's obviously turned the ball over a lot this season when he has played. Do you see him kind of getting over that? Because he did say earlier this week that's the biggest thing he's trying to learn from and trying to overcome, taking the reins back.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a fresh start. He gets a mulligan, if you will, to come in now as if the first 8 games hadn't happened. He has to be the quarterback they brought in and not the quarterback they played the first 3 games. I mean, they had bad turnovers that directly led to points and cost them, cost them victories in close games in those first 2 weeks. I think they'll play Atlanta a lot closer, obviously, than the first time around. They didn't have Gerald McCoy. They barely had Michael Johnson. They didn't have Mason Foster. I think they're a much better team than what lined up on that Thursday night in the Georgia Dome. I don't know if that translates to them winning. I think Atlanta has some real vulnerabilities. Their offensive line is terrible. Their defensive line has produced 7 sacks all season. So at the line of scrimmage, it looks like a game where the Bucs have an opportunity. But again, they have to do a lot of things they haven't done in the first half of this season to make this the ball game.
So, you like the Bucs this week, Greg, or do we just pack it and say 1-8?
No, I can't take them to win. Again, I think they'll lose by less than 42 points. I think right now you probably think of this as a game that Atlanta probably pulls out on the road, something like 27-17, maybe something like that. If I had to pick a score right now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm impressed because now before you were just saying win or lose. Now you're picking the numbers. I'm loving that, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
There you go. I'm trying to get their baby steps.
A real quick question for you regarding this game before we let you go. What are you expecting from the rookie Charles Sims? He was active last week. They're being cautious on him. We expect him to probably get a lot more to make his debut Sunday. Do you expect him to make have a lot of carries at least?
No, I do think you'll see him. I don't think you'll see him get the lion's share of the carries. I mean, Bobby Rainey has played well the last 2 games. He will be the starter. He'll be the guy that gets the probably the majority of the carries. But I think they've waited a long time to see Charles Sims. They invested a 3rd-round pick in him. They like him a lot. They were careful last week not to push that ankle, but I think you'll see him. I think he'll have a bigger role as the number 2 running back than Mike James had a week ago. So I think you can expect to see him rotated in. I don't think he'll get the first 2 series, but I think you'll see him in the first half. You'll see him get a series. You'll see him worked in on plays. I would be surprised if he doesn't have 10-plus touches by the end of the game. And if he plays well, you'll see more of it. This is a guy they've invested in, a guy they like, a guy that is the only back in this offense that was brought in by these coaches for this offense. They're going to want to see what they have in him here in the second half of the season.
All right, we appreciate it, Greg, as always. Thanks a lot for the time, and we'll see you down the road next week. Maybe we'll talk about a win.
All right, take care.
All right, see you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Greg Auman for the Tampa Bay Times joining us. Hardest working guy that I know.
He's got all the insight you need to know in the Bucs.
I love the guy.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, we're going to open up the phone lines at 813-367-0171. There it is on the screen right now. Let's go to Greg in Altamont Springs. Hey, Greg, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, man, what's going on, guys?
Good, yourself?
Wonderful. I heard about the Tampa Bay. I know they was struggling for a long, long time. I hope they get a win pretty soon. I hope they step up the plate. I don't know when they're going to get to the Super Bowl. They ain't been Super Bowl for years, so I don't know what your opinion what they're going to do with this team or what.
Well, right now, I think they're just going to try to get through this season. Greg, let's face it, 1-7. You're not going to make the playoffs unless they make a complete run. They're going to have to figure out what players are willing to play in the system, who could play in the system. And then I think Lovie's going to make his decisions as to what players he keeps and what players go.
And to go off your statement there, TK, Greg, you also got to look at how many players, could be gone next year because the majority of the players in this roster are from the past regime. So you have Jason Lion and Lovie Smith, all new to the team this year. So they're not sold on the current roster, as you saw with the trading deadline last week. There's only a handful, I would think, TK, that are probably not going anywhere. Obviously, like Gerald McCoy, Vontae David, some people like that. But
and you might end up having Michael Johnson on the team next year only because all the guaranteed money is in the first 2 years of his contract.
Yeah.
But Greg, I think what we're going to find out this week when you watch this football game is to see whether or not they took what Lovie Smith had to say in that team meeting to heart. Is
Right.
you guys going to put up? You're going to shut up? You're going to do it my way, or it's going to be the highway? And that's it, man. I mean, he couldn't put it any more simpler.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Have a great day now. All right, that was Greg in Altamont Springs. Okay. All right. We want to. Do we have somebody else? But we're going to hold them off till the next break. Okay, good. All right. Well, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, J.P. Peterson from the Atlanta Falcons radio network pregame host is going to be joining us. That name should sound familiar to you. He used to hang out here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah,
John, you can get a hold of us. You guys can even tweet me today because you know what? I got this baby sitting right here.
You got your phone all locked and ready to go.
Oh, I got one. See?
That's from our own.
That's from Laura Harris. She
Our
goes,
own Laura
football, baby.
Yeah.
All right, that's right.
Well, yeah, you can tweet at Tom and I there on the screen. You can use the hashtag #ThePlank. If you have any questions for us, we'll read your tweet on the air. Plus, after a disastrous game last week, who do you think should walk the plank this week? It's a segment and a special that we've been doing the last few weeks here on the show. There you see Tom. Nice hat. My hat's a little cooler.
Mine looks a little,
Yeah.
dude, that looks like an Abe Lincoln hat that I got.
which
Can
is-
we fix my hat?
Which isn't
Who the hell drew that up anyway? You know, I had no say in any of this.
I know you
I get
didn't.
no respect. Absolutely none.
None. But
And I stand there on a plank like some kind of a moron watching. Hey,
But do you see the dance that I do on the plank?
You do. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I have to
and if
say
you
it.
haven't seen that, we're going to have that coming up later on the show. We want to hear from you on who you think should walk the plank. A lot of different categories or nominees this week. On who
Yeah,
can
but
walk
I got only one in mind.
No, there's only one in mind.
There's
too.
only one in mind. Anyway, all right, folks, we're going to come right back, so stay tuned. The plank returns right after this.